What constitutes tampering? Like if you're on vacation and you run into Paul George, are you not allowed to speak to him?
No, we're going to say hi because we know each other.
I see.
You just can't say, hey, I want you to come to the Lakers, even though I'm going to be winking like, you know what that means, right?
Yeah, the Lakers were fined $500,000 for tampering after Magic Johnson made those comments on Jimmy Kimmel's show. But remember, Jimmy actually asked Magic to explain to him what tampering is. And instead, Magic, well, tampered. So without getting fined, let's go back and try to get at what Jimmy was really after.
What constitutes tampering?
It is time for some real talk about tampering.
Tampering in the NBA.
Okay, tampering. Let's start with the basics. What is it? Why does it matter now more than ever? And why does it seem like the Lakers are always involved? To start, I called up a bunch of experts.
So we're doing a explainer video about tampering in the NBA and what it is.
Good luck.
Yeah, well, right, exactly.
Tampering rules at the NBA are basically designed so one team doesn't feel like another team is actively interfering with or trying to subvert its star player.
You either have a star player or you're scheming to get a star player. And so the idea here is, if you have a star player, you want some protection from the schemers that are trying to steal the star player that you probably scheme to get yourself.
Tampering essentially is teams recruiting players that are under contract with other teams.
So it's a set of rules put in place to promote fairness. Basic, simple, except the problem is pretty much nobody actually follows them. Like nobody.
The tampering rules aren't enforced, and the joke was if you're not cheating, you're not trying.
If you were not tampering, you were at a disadvantage.
In your educated opinion, what percentage of basketball executives engage in tampering as defined by the letter of the law?
I'd say last year, probably 100%.
85%, and maybe the other 15% can't because they don't have the cap room.
It's kind of like when you're speeding. If everybody on the highway is going 85, you pretty much have to go 85, and that's what really definitely happened last summer.
Yeah, last summer was a giant tamper fest. Free agency officially started on June 30th, but deals were being announced within minutes after the window opened. Kemba Walker even magically knew to fly to Boston before he was technically allowed to start talking with the Celtics.
It was like, maybe he really, really likes clam chowder. Or maybe he's about to sign with the Celtics. I mean, it's ridiculous.
No one was hiding anything. The Knicks even issued an apology to their fans for not signing any big stars on the first night of free agency.
Within seconds, not even minutes, within seconds, all these players are signing with teams and making deals. And that, of course, should never happen. And, one of the funniest ones to me was when Kevin Durant signed with the Brooklyn Nets, and everyone was astonished. He had never taken a visit to see their facilities. Well, my goodness, how could he? He signed about 5 minutes after the process started.
Now, it's easy to look at all of this and say, who cares if players talk to other teams? But the notion of tampering goes much deeper than any one particular contract. And it means different things to different people involved. For the league, it's about fairness, especially to the smaller market teams.
Can we do a better job creating a league in which the competition is fair for all 30 teams?
For the players, it's about holding on to their power.
Players actually know that they have power now. You start to see that, especially with Bosh, D-Wade, Bron. I started to realize this is a major part of our game.
And for the teams, it's about protecting their most important asset, their stars. Tampering isn't new either. In 2000, the Timberwolves were fined $3.5 million and lost 5 first-round draft picks after it was revealed they had Joe Smith sign illegal contracts. Then in 2004, Carlos Boozer was involved in this super rare double tamper when he negotiated illicit deals with both the Cavs and the Jazz at the same time, and neither could complain about the other because they were guilty too. The NBA has reached into Mark Cuban's pockets for tampering twice, and Phil Jackson's once. and 3 different teams were all fined for tampering during one free agency period. More recently, the Lakers seem like the team of the moment when it comes to tampering. You've got a player who is business partners with an agent who represents players on teams other than the Lakers. You could even make a starting 5 out of players the Lakers were fined, investigated, or suspected of tampering with just in the last couple of years. It even became a running joke.
I'm going with Anthony Davis.
You sure you want him to be your teammate?
I'm very sure of that. Isn't that tampering?
No.
Strange as it might seem, teams can even tamper with their own players. In fact, the first team to get penalized under the tougher new tampering guidelines was the small market Bucks, when their GM said he intended to offer Giannis a max deal next summer. Yup, the Bucks got in trouble for trying to sign a player who's on the Bucks. And if that seems weird to you, you're not alone. Keep an eye on Tracy McGrady here.
So officially, Anthony Davis has not guaranteed the Lakers that he will resign, I have been told. And the Lakers have not offered him a contract because that would be tampering, Rachel.
They can't.
And nobody tampers
Nobody
in the NBA.
in the
That has
NBA.
now been banned.
Yes.
What? They can't offer him a contract?
Correct.
Absolutely.
Because
it's against the rules. There would be no tampering.
An unfair advantage to your own free agent if you talk to him about a contract for next year before other teams have a chance to do so.
Having said that, he will be re-signing with the Lakers on a 5-year max contract.
Thing is, even if you could understand all the tampering rules, that isn't enough. You still have to enforce them. And when it comes to players talking to other players, that's pretty much impossible. Kawhi Leonard certainly reached out to Paul George this summer about requesting a trade. And how did that work out?
It's pretty cool, pretty damn cool. Woo!
Players talk to other players. They recruit them in parking lots, in tunnels, at all-star games, on boats, in Rio for the Olympics, all sorts of things like that.
The player-on-player aggressive recruiting, I think since the big 3 got together in Miami, that was one of the first times it was clear that the power shift of those guys deciding what they wanted to do together, that woke up the superstars of the league to say, well, I got to do the same thing.
So I just don't see how that part of tampering can ever be squelched. Players are always going to talk to one another. They're going to always clandestinely recruit one another. That's just the nature of the beast.
So what now? The NBA just came up with a new set of regulations with even harsher penalties for tampering. But will it matter? For years, teams have brazenly broken these rules because it's just good business. On one hand, you've got a fine. On the other hand, you've got a superstar wearing your jersey. What would you do?
My vote is just to drop this pretense entirely. Do away with tampering rules altogether. Certainly, the system right now is broken. It's an affront to players' intelligence, and to executives too, frankly. And no fine that a team president like Magic can treat like pocket change is going to fix that.
Which brings us back to Magic, who's no longer an executive with the Lakers, in part because he didn't feel like dealing with the restrictions that came with the job.
I knew that in my heart that we had tampered, but would I admit we did something wrong? No, I would never admit that because we haven't, but at the same time we have.
Got all that? Magic tampered. And it was wrong, but it wasn't really. But also it was, wasn't it? And that, folks, pretty much sums up tampering in the NBA. Thanks for watching ESPN's YouTube channel. For highlights and analysis, download the ESPN app. And for premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.